Hi there, welcome to Nauctis on YouTube.
The question of why the United States continues to build aircraft carriers remains relevant in this modern era. Although they are considered outdated and vulnerable to attacks, aircraft carriers still employ many people in numerous congressional districts, ensuring their continued production. While aircraft carriers are indeed vulnerable to attacks, just like any other warship, nothing else offers the flexibility and capabilities of a modern aircraft carrier, both in times of peace and war. Throughout modern military history, aircraft carriers have proven themselves to be the centerpiece of maritime power. They symbolize sea dominance and global power projection. Aircraft carriers not only serve as floating air bases but also as powerful diplomatic tools, demonstrating the United States' presence and commitment around the world. Aircraft carriers remain highly tempting targets. However, the question arises, would any nation dare to attack an aircraft carrier during peacetime? China, for instance, is developing carrier killer missiles, and every other potential adversary likely has strategies to sink aircraft carriers. The question is not whether an aircraft carrier can be sunk, but what happens if that unthinkable event occurs. Imagine the USS Gerald R. Ford, or CVN-78, operating in international waters in the South China Sea. The carrier is on a routine mission with its battle group, consisting of several destroyers, cruisers, and supporting submarines. Suddenly, Chinese warships approach and begin launching anti-ship missiles known as the DF-21D carrier killer. As soon as the advanced dual-band radar aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford detects the missile launch, the first step is to activate the missile defense system. This radar system can detect threats from long distances and provide early warning to the entire fleet. The ship's defense system immediately activates the Close-in Weapon System, or CIWS, and RIM-162 Evolved Sea Sparrow to attack and destroy incoming missiles. The USS Gerald R. Ford does not operate alone. The supporting ships in its battle group also plays a crucial role in defense. Destroyers and cruisers equipped with the Aegis system deploy defensive missiles like the SM-3 and SM-9 to add layers of protection against the Chinese missile attack. Supporting submarines move to locate and destroy enemy submarines that may be approaching for an attack. While the defense systems work to neutralize the missile threat, the USS Gerald R. Ford quickly launches fighter jets from its flight deck. F-35C Lightning II and FA-18 Super Hornet fighters are deployed to identify, intercept, and neutralize the attacking Chinese warships. These aircraft are equipped with advanced air-to-air and air-to-surface weaponry, as well as electronic systems capable of jamming and disabling enemy weapon systems. The USS Gerald R. Ford is also equipped with sophisticated electronic warfare, or EW systems. These systems are activated to disrupt the Chinese warships' communications and radar, reducing the effectiveness of their attack. This includes the use of jammers to confuse missile guidance and make it difficult for enemy missiles to reach their target. If any missiles manage to penetrate the initial defense layers, the aircraft carrier activates additional countermeasures such as flares and chaff to deceive the missiles. The goal is to make the missiles lose their target and explode in the air or sea without damaging the carrier. After the initial threat has been addressed, the USS Gerald R. Ford quickly assesses any damage, if any, and performs rapid repairs if necessary. Medical teams and firefighting crews on board stand ready to respond to any incidents. Having successfully defended itself against the attack, the U.S. battle group plans a counterattack. This may involve the use of submarines to strike Chinese warships from beneath the surface, airstrikes from fighter jets, and the launch of cruise missiles from destroyers and cruisers. If the worst-case scenario occurs and a U.S. aircraft carrier is successfully sunk, the consequences would be immense. The sinking of a U.S. aircraft carrier would likely trigger an instant declaration of war. Thousands of American soldiers would die and billions of dollars in value would be lost. It would be a tremendous tragedy, triggering a fierce reaction from the American public and government. The attack would be a major blow not only to the Navy but also to the nation's morale. In the geopolitical context, the sinking of an aircraft carrier would be a rapid escalation trigger. The United States has a significant number of nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines for second strike capabilities that could respond to such an attack. This means that even if an aircraft carrier is successfully sunk, the United States' military ability to retaliate remains intact. Even if an American aircraft carrier is successfully sunk, the majority of the ship's crew and air wing would likely survive. In World War II, America lost 4 large aircraft carriers, but none lost more than 10% of the crew. Thousands were rescued, living to fight again, although millions might die in the ensuing war. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and other nations may understand that sinking a U.S. aircraft carrier would not cripple the United States. Such an attack would need to be part of a larger, well-coordinated effort to strike critical infrastructure. The United States has a significant number of nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines for second strike capabilities that could respond to such an attack. An attack on Pearl Harbor did not break America's will to fight, it did the opposite. Even if a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier is lost, the nation would unite, and the United States would build more warships and other weapons to take the fight to the enemy. The September 11th terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon are evidence that such attacks can unite a divided nation. A surprise attack by a conventionally armed nation would enjoy the highest level of success, but would also impact elite and public opinion in the United States, potentially prompting calls for terrible retaliation. An attack as part of a crisis would seem less extraordinarily hostile but would still generate demands for a strong response. China may have carrier killer missiles, but it is not in a position to bring the fight to the United States. Any conflict would almost certainly be fought closer to its borders, and the United States has the means and likely the will to strike Chinese cities in retaliation. This could quickly escalate into an unthinkable confrontation, including one involving nuclear weapons. The same holds true for Russia. An attack on a US aircraft carrier would almost certainly result in NATO invoking Article 5, meaning Moscow would face a war that would severely damage Russia. Without using nuclear weapons, Russia would not be able to significantly harm the United States. China and Russia have the greatest capability to sink an American aircraft carrier, but they also have the foresight to understand that it would not bring victory and would only result in a war they are unlikely to win. However, the same might not hold true for Iran and North Korea. Each has developed weapons that could sink an aircraft carrier, including Tehran's surface Abu Mahdi anti-ship missiles. Iranian Rear Admiral Alireza Tangsiri, commander of the IRGC-N, said these missiles could drive the enemy away and force US Navy aircraft carriers to retreat so far that their planes could not reach Iran. A rogue state might try something truly foolish like attacking an aircraft carrier. However, if US warships are targeted by such weapons, those regimes could start looking for a place in exile or come to terms with their fate, because they will not long be in this world. Although the threats to US Navy aircraft carriers are real and serious, the consequences of such an attack would be immense and devastating. Aircraft carriers are symbols of American power, and an attack on them would trigger a fierce response. China, Russia, or any other nation that might consider such an attack must carefully weigh the inevitable consequences of their actions. Ultimately, sinking an aircraft carrier would not only be a tremendous tragedy, but also bring the world closer to the brink of a horrific global war.